if you're just getting started with this, my biggest piece of advice is start from where you're at now. Like, don't feel like you have to go back and fix everything else. Start from where you're at now first. Get that, used to that, know that this is your plan, and then you can start going back and fix updating other things, and then feel good about it. But do not feel the need to say you have a full digital product that has video and everything, and you know most of them don't have action. All right, cool, fine. Make note of that. And then if you're creating a new digital product, at that point, start adding caption to all your videos, making sure you do that, and then just go from there. Because if you feel like you have to start going back, you're just going to get overwhelmed and nothing ever good.
Hey everyone, welcome to Your First Digital Product, a show that helps maxed out service providers create their first digital product so they can gain an additional income stream, grow their impact without increasing one-on-one work, and experience more time freedom. On the show, I talk to business owners who have launched digital products and dig deep into how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. I'm your host, Renee Morozowicz. Let's go. Hey everybody, today I'm here with Erin Perkins, and Erin is a champion for disability rights and an entrepreneur promoting accessibility and inclusiveness. As a deafblind woman, she founded Mabely Q, and with Erin's guidance, businesses embrace diversity and unlock the potential of every individual. Hey Erin, how are you?
Hi Renee, how are you?
Good, thanks. I'm excited to talk about accessibility, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about you, like in your own words?
Sure. So I actually started Mabely Q as a graphic designer because that was my background. And as a small business owner, I was like, all right, I need to keep learning because I feel like that's the only way to get ahead. And when I started like trying to ask that question from people that I really wanted to learn from, and I would realize like, okay, first of all, if they're doing a video, how am I supposed to understand the video if it's not captioned? So often when they were like, early bird sales, I would usually miss out on those because I would have to reach out to the people, ask them what the accessibility levels are for that course, and then they would come back to me, and there's been multiple different answers. One, oh, the course is all in text, so you don't have to worry about that, which is great, easy. Or there's no caption available. We're not sure how to do it. Can you teach us? And at that point, I realized that there's definitely a gap in the market because most small business owners, you're wearing many hats, and accessibility is not going to be one of those things that are thought about. Even though I look at it as accessibility really needs to be a core part of every business when they start up. And so because I've always had things handed to me in the aspect of, schools would always provide me with access. My parents made sure that I had access. I was for a corporation. They had all these things in place, even though there was some workaround we had to do. But where does that leave small businesses? So I ended up I'm like, all right, let me figure this out. Let me learn about this. And that's how I ended up in teaching accessibility to people. Because I felt like what's out there is very challenging and hard. And majority of what they teach is website or physical access. They don't teach about all the other nuances in business. And I think that's like what's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that as you're right, as business owners, we're doing everything. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
learn about everything. We have to learn about websites and how to sell our product and how to create it and time management and accounting and billing and accessibility. Like there's a lot of things, SEO, like there's a lot of things to learn. But I think that you're right, like having it kind of as like a fundamental sort of like, base
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, I think, and then to be able to incorporate that into your products and into your services can just make it better and easier going forward. So it's just something that is good to learn, and it's good for everybody. Like, it's not just like, maybe people think like, oh, I don't have any customers who might have a disability.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's a great
Yeah, a
approach to
lot of
take to it.
people assume that
Yes.
they know their ideal client. And I'm like, you'd be very surprised at what you really don't know about your customers. Like, if people look at me, you would not know that I'm deaf or blind.
Mhm.
Like, you would not know because one, I can speak. Two, I can see. But the thing is, like, my vision is slowly deteriorating, so, like, I'm losing that. I have perfect central vision, but I don't have any peripheral vision at all. And then my deafness, like, I was born deaf. I wear a hearing aid. I wear a cochlear implant. But when a video is being played, it does not mean that I understand it. Like, I have to watch TV with captions. I can't just sit here and listen to a podcast and not have that. Having, like, I do my client meeting with via video because it helps me understand the person better. I have captions, I can see their face, I can catch those nuances because, everyone makes facial expression and stuff, and I need that type of connection. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is that your disability is not always visible.
And I think that we often think of it like in this black or white, like you either
Hmm.
can see perfectly or you can't see at all and there's no shades of gray,
Yeah,
or
it's
hear
all a
perfectly.
spectrum.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there are many variations in between to take into account. So
Yeah,
I think that that's, yeah, important to think about it that way. I'm not sure why we think about it that way. We think about like, you
I
know,
I think I will admit I've never necessarily thought about being deaf or being blind in that way until the pandemic because what started to show up for me was that, we would always talk about the autism spectrum.
Mhm.
I don't even know why that came up, but it was the autism spectrum. And I was like, oh, people can be on any range. I'm like, well, that's kind of true for deaf people because, like, I am deaf. I identify as deaf, but I'm lucky I have some hearing. I can understand something with the hearing aid, but and I can speak. But then there are friends that they don't wear hearing aid, but they don't speak at all.
Mhm.
And then I have other friends who can talk on the phone, but they still identify as deaf. So I was like, okay, yeah. So we need to start realizing that there's a spectrum to every disability. It's not just attuned to how the world has defined it.
Right, right. And you mentioned that did you say your vision is deteriorating?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have retina pimosa. That is the hearing version.
Mhm.
What I have is Usher syndrome that affects both my hearing and my vision. So basically, it's like tunnel vision, and it
Mm.
goes down. I have about 40 to 50 degrees. So essentially, I can't see the person sitting next to me, or so I have to like scan things more.
Mhm. Okay.
But a lot of people I know who have this, they're probably at 5 to 10 degree vision. So
Wow.
it's definitely a challenge.
And it's a good point, I think, to make that y again, things change over time. Even things change with, individual people. So maybe what they could do before they can't, like, this is not the same, but, like, I just got bifocals, like, they're, progressives.
Oh,
So,
that's
like,
so fun. I'm not looking forward to that.
not great. But it's something where, at one point I didn't need glasses, and then I needed glasses, and then I need this, so people change over time, and it's not just any one thing. Like, it's, we
Yeah,
keep.
I mean, this leads me to my favorite quote is like, at one point you will be disabled at any point in your life. It so like, we all whether it's permanent or temporary,
Mhm,
it just like it's subjective. Like breaking an arm or a leg, that is a disability. It's just temporary though.
mhm,
So yeah, I mean, I used to be able to talk on the phone as a kid. Now, if you ask me to talk, no.
yeah,
I'm like, nope. Here, somebody can take the phone. I'm not
mhm.
answering the phone. We don't even have a limit.
I broke my leg last year, and that was a whole new learning experience for so many things, like, you mentioned physical accessibility, so, like, yeah, buildings and public spaces and things like that, but yes, like, now I'm able to walk, but now have a new appreciation
Yeah.
for for things that
Yeah, it's
you
like,
just don't
"Oh my
know.
god, so many stairs." Like, "No, we're
Yes.
not gonna do that. There's too many stairs to go up." Like,
Yes.
that kind of
Yes.
or
Yeah.
how heavy some of these doors are.
Yes, exactly, trying to with crutches, trying to open a door, and sometimes, like, there'll be the button, to
And
open
then
the
they
door,
don't work.
it doesn't work, or they get out of sync, so if there's 2 sets of doors, one door opens and the other doesn't, so
Yeah,
there's a lot to it.
for
Totally
sure.
agree, yeah. Yay, okay, cool, so what is maybe, like, a few things you mentioned captions on videos, what are a couple other things that we can be doing to help our products?
So, one of the things I encourage people to think about is, so say I have a video and for my course. So I have a video and that's all I provided. That's not accessible in the sense of some people might learn differently. Like watching a video doesn't help that like they are learning artist to it. But some people learn better reading or writing. So having the video with like cor- corresponding text below does help people be able to decide which way they want. They might be able to utilize both pieces, or they might feel like it's an easy, like reading, they just want to read it and then go from there. So it's like having different ways for people to consume your digital product is usually helpful for many people because not everybody wants to consume things the same way. Like my husband, he's an audio learner. He learns best by listening to things and he picks it up. So it's funny, we actually get along great when it comes to building and putting things together. Like we have no problem putting together IKEA stuff.
Wow.
Because, like, I can read out the instruction to him. I learn better by looking and reading and stuff, and he learns better by listening. So I read out the instruction to him, and then we're able to put it together. But then there are moments where you're just like, what are these directions? It
Yes.
makes no sense no matter what. So that's what I suggest with people. Think about different ways of how you can present your digital product beyond just the first way you've come up with.
And I don't wanna say it's not hard, but you've already created the content, so providing it in a different format is
Mhm.
not that much more you're not creating a whole new, set of materials. Well,
And the chances you've
yeah.
already written it,
Yes.
so if you're just planning on presenting it as written content, great, great, that's easy. But like, the if you just create a video to go along with it or an audio piece to go along with it can help. But there are technologies now that more and more people are using different technologies where it can read out this text that is on the screen for you. So that's helpful as well.
Yeah, that is cool. Like, some things, like, in the browser, like Google Chrome or,
Yeah.
like, things yeah, that is nice. And I think maybe we don't know about those things. Like, we don't maybe know that they exist unless we maybe have a need for them or we go out looking. So
Yeah. So I think I was reading something like more and more people like using voiceover or something to read out what's on the screen for them, so that's great.
mhm, yeah,
Right,
that is
and
good.
it's low cost, I think it might be free,
Mhm,
so you can definitely utilize those things. A lot of, like, browsers like Chrome has so many amazing plugin
mhm.
extensions that are phenomenal that you can, like, use and play around with and have that give you that additional piece of leg up.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I think, just to go back to, what you're saying about in different formats, like, and then you can market the product that way. Like, then you can say, hey, and I have videos for people who like to learn this way.
Mhm.
And, like, I think it can be a selling point too, to be able to showcase that care about accessibility and you care about people actually consuming. Like I think the point I like to try to make on this show is that we're not just concerned about sales, like we're actually concerned about people buying and using your product. So
Yeah,
it's great if people buy it, but it's better if people actually use it then. So, giving people ways to use it, I think is important.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So any other tips that you have, like what are some other things maybe that we can do
Include
to
kind of information in your sales page.
Mhm.
Like the best place is probably frequently asked question. Like, how is this information? How is your digital product being presented to your audience? Share that, it's the video with accompanying text, or like it's a PDF downloadable. I will say that making a PDF screen reader friendly is one of the most challenging things. That is something that I have not been able to necessarily learn because it's a little bit, I feel like it's very complex to take a PDF and make it readable via screen
Mhm.
reader. So one of the things that suggest is if you create a PDF with content, have a Google Doc that you've created with header using headers, like the style sheet. Use that
Mhm.
to help break it down so that it complements. So in the event of somebody needing to utilize the screen reader, they can then reach out to you. I'm not saying like you would want to I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable putting a Google Doc up for people to use. So this might be something that you would consider as like having a backup. I mean, I create everything in Google Docs, so I have it ready. So if somebody asks me, it's not a huge deal for me to be like, oh, here's a link to.
Yeah, I mean, I like Google Docs. I know some people don't. I know people like that
Hmm.
sort of PDF and I don't know, it's polished maybe in a different way, but I've had
Yeah,
some people on the show, talk about like, "Oh, I like this or I like that." So I think it is personal preference, but yeah, it's a great point of having and maybe that's where the PDF came from anyway. It came from Google Docs. So it's not like
yeah.
you have to maybe recreate it completely. Um, I took an accessibility class a couple years ago from a woman, but it was web accessibility, but she also
Hmm.
had a class about making your PDFs accessible. I'll dig that out, maybe put that in the show notes for people.
Okay.
But I think that, yeah, like you're saying, it's maybe more complicated than people think. We think like, oh, a pretty PDF, pretty too, like pretty PDF and all this stuff. But maybe
I
there's,
mean, don't get me wrong. I have a background on the designer myself, so like, of course, like I want things to look pretty. I mean, after all, we've invested all this money in our branding.
Mhm,
We want to make sure our branding achieves that appearance, that look throughout whatever we're creating. So it is completely understandable to be like, I don't necessarily want to give that a Google Doc away, because it's not like outlining my branding and
mhm,
stuff. Like you can always just create a quick template of your Google Doc with like your logo and just little things, and then keep the rest of it super simple so that it is readable for the screen reader.
mhm,
So it's just doing little things like that, I think, give people that peace of mind knowing that if they needed to learn from you and they wanted to purchase your digital product, they have multiple different options of how to consume it. And most of these little add-ons is not like massive. It's
mhm,
not like a huge, like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be so much more. What
mhm.
it does, but I do want to clarify, it does add up if you're doing so many things, but it's gonna improve your SEO on it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think
like,
it's and just having that available and like you mentioned, like putting in the FAQ that, this is how the information is provided and if you would prefer or need, a Google Docs
mhm.
version or something like that, we have that available, just reach out to us. So, I think that is great. So you mentioned the PDFs in Google Docs. Are there any other maybe tools or platforms that you've come across like that you've found easier to use maybe than others or
I don't know because like it's funny because on Thread people are talking about binning. I don't even know what binning means,
I think it
but
means
like,
getting rid of. Yeah, I've seen that
okay,
too. I think it means getting rid of, you're not gonna use, like, ClickUp anymore or whatever.
yeah, like using the changing of tech stack and
Mhm,
stuff like that. One of the things, it is my goal to not conform people to one specific tech stack
mhm,
or whatnot. Because I am a huge believer in people finding tool that works best for them.
mhm.
And like, but I will say I am a diehard Google workspace person. Like everything Google, I'm like, just give it to me. If you take it away, I will die.
Right.
Like my business will not be able to function without it.
Mhm,
So it's really important for me to help people understand that whatever tech stack you're using, whatever course platform you're using, if you are not sure about it, let me know and help me figure out how to make that platform better.
mhm.
And then we can like make sure that whatever course digital product you create is accessible no matter what platform you're using. So that's like what I don't like to recommend anything
Mhm.
specific in that sense. I can share what I use. I use ThriveCart
Okay.
and ThriveCart Learn for my like product, and like I like it, but I do notice that there are huge accessibility gaps within them. So if anybody knows anybody at ThriveCart, please give me a holler.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, because I think it's again, just making these products better and better, easier for people to use. It's good for their customer base and their, new customers too. So, I
Yeah,
think that that's
for
important.
sure.
There are so many different platforms out there, and I kind of feel the same that I don't recommend any one, but yeah, looking at the features that you need and the price point, again, as small business owners, we can't just
Hmm.
buy the most expensive one out there, even though it might be super awesome. Like, you have to kind of balance what you need, what your audience needs. But I love that. So, do you offer that as a service? Like, I'll audit your product, or I'll audit your thing, or ask me a question, or consult hour, anything like that?
So I work in several different ways. I'm still in the middle of like kind of so the beginning of this year I ended up like kind of like deconstructing my business
Mm,
and now I'm like putting it back together.
nice.
So essentially I've come up with the business accessibility shop. And that is where you can buy one off things like if you want to just have a workshop for just focused on email you can do that. Or if you want to get all, you can join Successful as a membership and you get access to everything. So you have that. And then I do offer like a half day accessibility audit where we can either go through everything in your business or we can just like really focus on most people like to focus on one main thing. Like I've done help people with their podcast,
Mm,
the website, kind of like really help them fine tune it. Basically what I do is I take a look at your process and then I find all the accessibility gaps that are missing and help you kind of rebuild that.
mhm.
And then you can also bring me on as a consultant. So if you want me longer term, you can bring me on in that aspect. So I do all those different things.
Nice, nice. And I like that deconstructing and reconstructing. Like,
Oh my God.
that is because that is, I think that's another thing. Kind of, this is a side note, but as a business owner, I guess I thought that once I like figured it out, I'd just be good, and like that's just what I would do. And now I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Like 7 years in, and it's I don't know. I don't know why I'm surprised. Everything changes, but that was just
I
kind of
know.
a
It's
sidebar.
like technology changes, what's
Hmm.
available out there changes. So you're like literally trying to figure out that. I launched Successful last year, almost a year ago today. And it was one of those things where this is what I thought people needed. But then now I'm like, all right, let me take a step back and kind of like reconstruct it in a different way. So I wasn't like really reinventing the wheel so much. It was just like, how can I present this information better to people?
Hmm.
And that's what's important. Like I found that more and more people wanted just to learn about one thing,
Hmm.
which I think is completely fair. Like sometimes you don't want to get overwhelmed with all the things. So you might just be like, you know what? I really want to lean in on the email aspect of my business because that's like what I am focused on this year. And
Mhm.
that's totally cool. If you're leaning in, like, because you're creating your digital product, you might be like, all right, can I make sure that this is accessible? So, like, let's look at your digital product as a whole and evaluate where you can improve to make sure that moving forward you're doing things the way that it should be done.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely agree with the overwhelm. I think that maybe the days of like those big signature courses have kind of passed where like
Mhm.
I just the thought of like buying a huge course, like yes, it's great because it has all the information, but you know, that
Am I
information
gonna go through the
changes.
whole thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and no, the answer is no. I don't have time to do that. I don't have the attention span to do that. So yeah, that's why I kind of promote like a smaller product because yeah, it can
Mm.
focus on one thing, do that thing well, people can consume it, and then you feel better about yourself. I think as a customer, like I bought this thing, I did it, I used it, I implemented it, done. Instead of I paid a ton of money for this course. I started it. I didn't complete it. Now I feel terrible about myself. I feel bad about myself. And I just don't think that that's what we want our customers to feel. We want them to feel good, not bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree. I agree with that
Yeah.
aspect.
So how did you so talking about your own product or products, like how did you kind of decide like, oh, it's time to create something for like were people asking you? You were just kind of like, I'm gonna put this together. Like how did maybe that come about?
People were constantly asking me, and I pers- I was really happy to just doing graphic design because that is my background. I love doing it, and I didn't have to do too much selling, but people kept asking me, and I would be doing education on Instagram. But the challenge was I was kind of tired of doing the work for free.
Mhm.
Like just teaching people, I'm like, there's all this stuff out there, you can do it. But I also noticed that there was a massive gap in if you went to look for accessibility, everything that comes up in SEO is all about website
Mhm.
accessibility. And that is like a pain in my side because it's not just website.
Yeah.
Like I have no problem with accessing website. That is not a barrier for me. Now, if you talk about podcasts, if
Mhm.
you talk about courses that just do video or audio only, or events like summit, like whether the audio,
Ooh.
those are barriers for me, and that's where I was like, this is the problem, and I'm tired of constantly having to ask people to kind of fixed it. So I started building out my first product, which was the Accessibility Made Easy course. It was 17 and it was pretty good, but I left that alone and I wanted to find something that really hit people more and kind of like go along with the technology that has evolved over the 3 years that I have since I created Accessibility Made Easy. So I went with that, and now I feel good because now I'm like, "Oh, okay, people might just want one-off pieces." And that's totally fine. If they buy one piece and then they come back and be like, "You know what? I need you to just, like, walk me through the whole thing." That's totally cool with me as well.
Yeah, and I love that, we do talk about that sometimes on the show where the product isn't maybe necessarily just like the money that it makes, but a lot of these products, whenever you create something and showcase something, people consume it and they're like, "Oh, wait, this is much more in depth than I bargained for. Like,
Mm,
can you do
yeah,
it for me? Or can you help me do it?" And that leads to a client, right? That leads to
yeah,
maybe participating in your membership or your group program or your one-on-one. And like that's an
mhm,
equally good outcome. It doesn't just have to be like the money that the product makes. So I
yeah.
think there's because I think service providers like to provide their service. I don't know too many that are like, I just want to do products. There's some, but I think that service providers like to provide the service, but having something in
But it's
addition
also
is
a
great.
way for you to build connection with people.
Yeah.
And I like the human connection.
Mhm.
I mean, we're all staying at home by ourselves
Mhm.
with maybe our fur animal.
Yeah.
Mine's not with me right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, do you want to tell us more about your products? So how many products do you have?
So let me kind of like clear off my framework.
Okay.
So I found this digestible, which is based on the word digest and accessible. So I created that. It's all trademarked. It's mine.
Nice.
I love it. And I feel like it just rolled off the tongue.
Mm.
So the framework is based on the word digest. And basically what it kind of teaches people that in order to be successful, you need to be accessible in all aspects of your business. So it's like your business, email marketing, social media, your event, whether in online or in person, your podcast, your website, like all those things are different pieces, aspects of your business that you need to make sure that you're accessible in every single one of these aspects. Like, say someone finds you on social media. If your video is not captioned or you don't have alt text in there, it's not, and then they're going to be like, nope, that's not accessible to me. So I'm just going to move on and find somebody else to it. That's going to keep them from getting to your website, going to your website and wanting to learn more
Mhm.
about you. So it's like, or if someone goes to your website and they're like, the colors are too hard to read because they're colorblind, that's going to create a barrier for them as well. Or they use your website and they're using a screen reader and it's not working, like the screen reader is not really taking them to anywhere that provides them information they need to want to hire you. So it's all these different aspects that if you're not accessible in one piece, it's going to affect how other people. It's the same if someone finds your podcast. Like, I'm least likely, if someone tells me they have a podcast, great. I go and I'm like, oh, there's no transcript available. Now, I will say Apple has created this where transcripts are available for every podcast. Awesome. But here's the thing. Not everyone uses Apple Podcast.
Mhm.
So you still need to have a transcript available no matter so that it's available on any platform anyone chooses. But what if I weren't an Apple user and I used another, I don't know what the other podcast platform does. I
Mhm.
use this other platform, but there's no transcript available.
That's a great point. And it's kind of like, if you think about like the beginnings of websites and the internet, the
Mm-hmm.
point was different from like a book. Like a book, you open the book at the beginning and you read through it in a sequential
Mm-hmm.
manner. Whereas is the
Yeah.
web, it's a web of you can go different pathways. And that's a great point. Not everybody comes to your website first. Not everybody finds you there. They don't always just go to your homepage. That's one thing that,
Mm-hmm.
I like to stress to people. They might land on a different page. So if they come to you, from social media, they might not even get to your website because your social is not accessible,
Yeah.
captions and things like that. I've noticed that for the podcast, when I share on social media, I put the captions on the video, but I upload like the SRT file
Mm-hmm.
um, as well. But I didn't notice that Instagram had the ability to do that. So like the reels just have the captions written on them, which although I guess you could listen to it too. I don't know. Sometimes I worry.
I do not have Instagram caption turned on by the platform and stuff because where they've set up closed caption, let's clarify,
Mhm.
closed captioning, where they set it up in Instagram, it overlaps by the reel or story caption.
Mm.
So it's like so I have like I'm using one hand that this is the caption and then the closed captioning, and then this is the real caption.
Mhm.
How am I supposed to read that?
Right, exactly.
So I've always turned that off, and I want people to add their own caption.
Okay, that makes sense. And
It's
it
just
wouldn't
easier to read.
Yeah.
And plus me, if I just like let it transcribe my own voice, it would not caption it correctly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Auto transcript does not think I speak.
Oh. You would think that, like, they would tell you where on the reel maybe to put the if you're going to put captions on there, like, to put them maybe in a different place, but yeah, that overlapping, that's not useful. I did notice some people, if they put it too high, like,
It will be
they're
covered, yeah.
yeah, exactly, I'm like, "I can't read this because I don't always listen. Actually, most of the time, I
But
don't
that's the
turn
thing
audio on.
is people are assuming that people are have the audio. I do not know anybody who had sound on their phone
Right,
unless
yeah,
they had caption or needed for everybody. So
yeah.
if you don't have
Mhm,
caption, you're missing out.
mhm. Yeah, only every once in a while will I turn the sound on, but then I feel weird. I wanna read it, like, I wanna watch your face, and then I wanna read the captions, and then I wanna go to the next one, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know why. Do you wanna share maybe some kind of summary tips for us, like, whichever if there's something we didn't talk about, we can talk about it, or if you wanna give us our advice, like, if we're just getting started with accessibility in our products
All
and
right.
thinking about it.
So this is great. If you're just getting started with it,
Mm,
my biggest piece of advice is start from where you're at now. Like, don't feel like you have to go back and fix everything else. Start from where you're at now first. Get that, used to that. Know that this is your plan, and then you can start going back and fix updating other things, and then feel good about it. But do not feel the need to say you have a full digital product that has video and everything, and you know most of them don't have action. All right, cool, fine. Make note of that. And then if you're creating a new digital product, at that point, start adding caption to all your videos, making sure you do that, and then just go from there. Because if you feel like you have to start going back, you're just going to get overwhelmed and nothing ever good.
yeah, that's a great point because I think we do that. I think that we think like, "Okay, now I know about accessibility, and now I have to make every single thing that I've ever done accessible and everything going forward," and that is just that's too much. But you
Yeah.
could maybe on you tell me, maybe on that product, you could say, like, "If you need a different version of this or something, let me know," and then you can create it. I've had people on the show who have had, so they do one in particular, she does, like, software documentation. I'm like, "How do you
Hmm.
keep up with the changes on that?" And she said, "I have a note on every video that says, like, if this video is too out of date for you, if you're seeing this and this
Oh, yeah.
video
That's a
needs
great.
attention, let me know." And then so she knows to fix that video. She doesn't have to fix the ones that nobody ever looks at or cares about. I mean, she may go back to them, but those aren't priority. The priority, are the ones where
What the people are watching. No, I think
yes.
that's a great
Yeah.
piece of advice that make add that note,
Mhm.
right? Say, like, if you're watching it and you feel like something's out of date, like, let the creator know so that they can actually go back and fix it because it kind of like takes the pressure off of us. And
Yeah.
it also gives us like more insight into what your audience is prioritizing.
Yeah.
What they are like, oh, I'm really focused on, like, I feel like right now, everybody I know is focused on email, which is fantastic. Like Instagram, just go,
Yeah.
go, ditto, dit over there. You can wait. Let's focus on email.
Mhm.
So I'm like really leaning into the email accessibility aspect. So, like, so anything related to social media, I can kind of put pause.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
because
think anybody can do that.
yes, it's hard. It is. It's hard to do all of it, and just to think about everything you've ever created, retrofitting and like that is overwhelming. So,
Hmm.
I think it's a
Yeah.
good plan. Yeah. So, any other advice? Any other things if people are just getting started that, um, that
I feel like I don't want to overwhelm your people.
yeah, no, it's good.
Like, so I was like, so start from where you're at now. Think of different ways of how you can create your digital product and present it so that it's accessible in several different ways. But don't feel like you have to create it in multiple different forms and then you feel overwhelmed. So like do what is to your
Hmm.
like like that's my emphasis is like, do what you feel like is right for you. That
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great advice because I think that I think creating a product can be so intense, even if it's a small
Mhm.
product, and then saying like, "Oh, hey, and you have to create it in 5 different formats too." Like, okay, no,
Yeah,
not quite, not quite. And there are a lot of tools out there, I think, now that make it easier than it was before. So, I
for
use
sure.
Descript and, I pull the videos in, but then the audio, the audio, but then the transcripts are there too. So, that didn't exist a long time ago.
Hmm.
So it's getting better, I think,
Yeah.
maybe than it used to
So
be.
would you say where you're filming right now is using the platform Descript
So this is
or
Squadcast, and
okay.
Descript actually bought Squadcast, but there's an integration. So after I stop recording, it records the video separately and the audio separately. So it will send each video, each audio in, and then I kind of adjust and correct and cut and trim and polish
Nice.
it. So when I export it, I can export the SRT, the TXT transcript, the audio, the video, all those things. And then I
Yeah.
put them in different places. So
Nice.
it's,
Nice.
yeah.
So yeah, you can also promote Descript. I'm still like I don't feel like I would utilize Descript enough to use it, but I do think it is one of the top accessibility tools out for people.
Yeah. And I think, just having the tools that you need, like it's, we're talking about tool stacks, like your tool stack is different from my tool stack. And like this works well because of the things that I do, but, everybody
Yeah.
does different things. So, you know, I don't know that I'd recommend it if you didn't have a podcast. Like, that's just kind
Right.
of what I use for it. But yeah, finding, whatever you're going to be creating, like, and there may be tools within, like, I'm not a huge advocate of like, and buy this tool and buy this tool and buy this tool. Like, let's see
Right.
what tools, what capacity and features the tools you're already using have
Yeah.
for you.
And to that.
Yeah. Mhm. Awesome.
Or if
Yay.
you can replace one tool, use one tool to replace three, it's even better.
Yeah, that too, right? Right. Make it trim.
So,
It just simplifies it for you so that you don't have, like 57,000 things. And I don't know. It's again that overwhelm. Yeah, keeping that overwhelm down.
for sure.
I love it. I love it. Yay. So do you want to tell us where we can find you online?
Yes, you can find me on Mabely Q, Mabely_Q on Instagram, and Mabely Q, all one word.com on my website. And I do have a social media scorecard
Oh, sweet.
link that I can provide you with so that you can your audience can kind of use that as a starting point. And I feel like social media is one of the easier way to be accessible from the beginning and then go from there. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. And thank you for sharing all of your experiences and your advice with us today.
You are welcome.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'd love to continue the conversation in your inbox. Email subscribe to hey@yfdp.show or sign up in the show notes to get bi-monthly emails about how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. Can't wait to see you there.